Hello, make Boise better. Oh, no, make Idaho better. Still don't have the new hats yet, so we're on probably backwards. Um, it's time for a new analysis video. This week's survey was about homelessness, and we got a record amount of participation. Last time I checked, I think we're at like 340 responses, which is great. Previous record was 250, so moving on up in the world. Hopefully, we just keep going up, be in the thousands before we know it. All right, screen share time. If you're watching this video and are wondering what the hell is Make Idaho Better, do not fear, I will explain now. Make Idaho Better is the easiest way to be a part of state and local solutions. So there's other ways that you can get involved, but a lot of them aren't as friendly to your schedule or your calendar, especially if you're a busy person. They might not work for you. What I'm trying to do is make the easiest way to contribute. So if you join our email list, and that's right here, you'll get weekly surveys. They're super short. They take 2 or 3 minutes to do. You get an email inviting you to take the survey on Monday, and on Thursday you get an email with the analysis and the results of those surveys. So the data is going to be public and available for you to see, and then my results or my analysis will kind of show you what you can't see underneath the surface of those overall results. So let's get into it. All right, homelessness survey. For all of our surveys, we have all the resources here, and this is linked in the analysis if you check that out. You can see the actual survey copy, how everything's worded if you want to. You can click to see the results of the overall results, and I always try to have a relevant GIF. And the analysis, which is what we're doing right now, is going to be posted there shortly. So here's our analysis. These are starting to get a little bit long, so I'm trying to give people a table of contents so they know what's coming, so they don't just give up when they see there's a lot of scrolling involved. You can skip to what matters or what you're interested in. Okay, homelessness is a big issue. It pretty much a nightmare for anybody involved. Yeah, can you imagine not having a place to go and rest and recoup and get cleaned up and having the stability that you need to work and earn an income and provide for people you care about? That's crazy. So that's what we analyzed today. That's the survey for the week and the analysis. So we always start off with the sample demographics. So this is important to look at because you want to get a sense of who did we hear from in this survey. You know, if we heard from only one type of person, the overall results, we should take them with a big grain of salt because those might be different than a lot of other people, and maybe we're only getting one side of the story. So we always kind of highlight the demographics at the beginning of every analysis. So let's start in the top left and go clockwise. So gender. There's this huge gray bar here with a question mark. What does that mean? Well, what it means is we got a lot of participation from first-time responders this week, which is great. Thanks if that's you. So a lot of people participated for the first time. That means we don't have their survey question history like we do for people that take repeat surveys. So we are not able to pull in information from about other demographics that we didn't ask about in this specific survey. So you notice there's not a gray bar for county or whether or not you've known someone that's experienced homelessness or not. That's because these are questions from this specific survey. These are questions from other surveys that I wanted to bring in to kind of show kind of who we're hearing from. But most people we don't have that for. That's okay. We still asked all the questions in this survey that we kind of really wanted to use. But in the future, as we get more repeat respondents, we can kind of bring in stuff from other surveys, which are also interesting. So of the people that we know of that took this survey, it's about equal between men and women. For the people that we know the ages, we're spread out across all decades. Probably a slight skew on younger people in their 20s and 30s. That's pretty typical for our surveys. So I would guess these would be kind of, spread out like that, more in the 20s and 30s, kind of downward trend from there, but still covering the gamut. So, and in county, heard the most, about 60% of the respondents were from Ada County. We heard 40% from people outside of Ada County. Here's, the top counties we heard from, and then everybody else kind of bundled up here in others. And then whether or not you've known someone that's experienced homelessness. This is going to be a key demographic. So this is helping us know, this is important because it'd be one thing if everybody that took this survey had never known anybody. Then it's all kind of theoretical, hypothetical, and potentially you have a much different experience with this issue. So this is good to know. About 60% of the respondents do know somebody, whether it's themselves or somebody else that's experienced homelessness before. So this is actually going to be what we're going to use for our primary segmentation of the question answers. And I will mention that this is an opt-in survey, which means everybody that took it could decide whether or not they wanted to online. So the people that took this survey probably are a lot more interested in this topic than people that didn't, that were like, I don't want to spend 3 minutes on a survey. So we need to expect that these are the answers coming from people that are interested. So not everybody's as interested. So what we found in this analysis might not be true for, whatever, for an average Idahoan, whatever an average Idahoan looks like, So probably not exactly like the average person that took this survey. So we'll keep that in mind too. But on the bright side, this is still good data. This is the most data about Idaho homelessness that I've come across, and it's certainly the only thing that's really transparent and publicly available. So this is the best we got to work with. So onward, let's do this. Okay, I wanted to start with how often do you think about homelessness? This is really to gauge how concerned this is context for everything else. It's really different. How I would interpret other question answers is be really different if this is something that you think about never, twice in your life, or very infrequently, compared to if this is something you're thinking about every day. You probably are coming from really different places in the way you think about this stuff. So this is kind of giving us context. And the biggest answer was a few times a week. And between, the yellow bar and up, this is all everybody that thinks about it every week or more. And if you're like me and you shop at Winco in Boise, not as many people now recently, but there used to be a lot of people asking for money. So that might be a reason why people, see them weekly on their kind of main thoroughfares or at the grocery store and things like that. This totals up, I think it was, about 70% that think about it on a weekly basis or more. That's really high, I thought. Maybe you don't think so, but I wouldn't have expected that. I would have thought maybe 30% would have thought about it every week. But so that's good to kind of set the context. And then I wanted to break that down by that other demographic we already talked about, whether you've known someone experiencing homelessness before or not. And check this out. The people that said they have known somebody responded, they think about it every day, over twice as much as people that haven't known someone, which makes sense, right? Imagine if you've got a family member that's homeless, you might be thinking about them every day. Yeah. And then any homeless person you see would remind you of them and how crappy their situation is. And that'd be very distressing. Not to mention if that was you, think about that. From the survey results, it seems like this is a lot more common, or a lot of people that took this survey have experienced it themselves, and they indicated that in the comments. So yeah, people, I think, people that know somebody that's experiencing homelessness think about it a lot more. So they, a lot bigger group in this every day, certainly a lot more in the weekly bucket, and then way less that think about it only on a, monthly basis. Okay, let's keep going. Well, we asked one question, which was, I didn't show the overall results, so maybe I'll do that real quick. And you'll get to see here's the overall results, what those look like. Get a dashboard. Okay, so we asked this question: which of the following images best represents homelessness in your mind? And this is so as you're thinking about homelessness, however often that is, what to you does that look like? Is it an adult male? Is it an adult female, a child, a family, a veteran, or a young adult? And there could be other options, but these were the things that we decided to put down here. And so, overall, adult male was the biggest one. And that's not too surprising. I think that's kind of the generalization that I see in here most often. But I was curious to see, breaking that down by whether you've known someone or not, how that's different. So you were about half as many people put adult male if they've known somebody, and about twice as many put a family. And from what I've seen in the news, that's actually seems to be like a really underappreciated use or a situation in homelessness, that there are more families than people realize. They're not just, single people often. Veteran was about the same. So that's interesting. Let's think about like, how big of a problem is this? How significant is it? And the biggest answer was somewhat significant. It's pretty bad. And we had a much bigger group, about twice as big, I think, or more than twice as big, definitely more than twice as big. It was 45% that said more than somewhat significant, compared to, what I put here, 20% that said it's less than somewhat significant. So this is, to me, that my takeaway is this is a pretty big issue, and on a lot of people's mind, and it's a big one. It's not on their mind in a small one, it's on their mind and it's a big one. Okay, let's go back to whether you've known someone or not. How does this break down? Okay, look at the orange. People that have known someone think it's a lot more significant of a problem than people that haven't known someone. Totally makes sense to me. If you have someone you care about is going through this, firsthand, like it becomes a lot more real. You might know firsthand, or or through very few, degrees of separation, what all of this entails and how bad it is. Whereas if you don't know somebody, this might be a little more theoretical, more of a kind of cerebral thing, something you might think about, but you don't see what it's really like. And that was another thing, like in the comments below, that kind of really stuck out to me. I got a sense for a lot of comments where it's like people that have experienced this themselves, or the people that they know that have experienced this, or people or friends, and how painful that is. Okay, let's put ourselves in this shoe. Do you think this could happen to you or someone you know in your lifetime? I haven't been homeless before. So yeah, thinking of answering this question it's not often that I think about being homeless, and I realize that puts me in a privileged situation. I wanted to kind of illuminate that for everybody else too. And this was big. It was really big. This is like, what was it, 60% said likely or very likely that this could happen to them or someone they know. What? That's wild. Now it makes a little bit of sense it makes a lot of sense when you think about, like, we already know from the other question, like, most of the people that took this survey know somebody who's experienced homelessness. So when we ask them, could this happen to you or somebody you know in your lifetime, it has already happened for them. So yeah, you can see that here. The orange bar, almost everybody's saying, over 70% saying, yeah, it's very likely, or yeah, it's already happened. So maybe I could have worded that question a little better, but compare that to people that don't know somebody. They're a lot more, they said unlikely a lot more. But I was pretty interested in this group. 25% of them said it's likely, a little over 25% if you put the very likely, like it could happen to me or somebody I know in my life, and I don't know anybody now. That kind of highlights to me, like, I think a lot of people realize that this is a closer thing than maybe some people realize. Like, a few really unfortunate events in a row, you might be out of luck. You lose your job, you get cancer, and you've got all these medical bills, and you don't have health insurance, or something crazy happens, and you start having some mental health challenges, and you're in a fog, and before you know it, you're like backed into a corner, and this is you. That's crazy. It's horrible. Anyway, moving on. So next question, is, we got a sense of how much you think about it, how big of an issue you think it is, but is it heading in the right direction or not? That's what I wanted to figure out with this question. And pretty much everybody's saying it's not heading in the right direction. Either it's not changing, staying the same, just as bad, or it's getting worse. There's a big group that said, I don't know, but virtually nobody said it's getting better. Makes sense to me. Housing prices are going nuts. I don't know if anybody's looked at Zillow recently, but we can see the Idaho price trend up, 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 up. So, and wages aren't going up like that, in line with that. So, getting harder to afford where you live. So that seems to reason like homelessness would be more and more of a challenge. All right, let's break that down again. Whether you've known somebody, do you think about this differently? Not really. I mean, there's a bigger group here that says it's getting much worse, but it's not so different. I think most people are on the same, of this response, are kind of on the same page about, nothing huge is happening to fix this, to help this. In fact, it's getting worse. So that's good to know. We're going to kind of shift gears now into more of a thinking about causes and solutions. Before this point, it was kind of context, like how often do you think about it? What's your experience with it? How bad is it? Is it getting better? Now let's talk about kind of how you think about causes and solutions. So one question, I think at the heart of different opinions or worldviews about homelessness is this: whether or not you think it's a choice. If you think it's a choice and people are just like lazy or can't work hard or, just giving up on themselves, but they're, rational, maybe you wouldn't have so much sympathy. You're like, well, just decide not to be that. What's wrong with you? But if you don't believe that it's a choice, then I think it's a lot easier to have empathy with that, because, this is something that's out of your control, and there's always choices. Choices are a part of everything. So, it's not 100% choice or 0% choice. It's a little messier than that. But if you think you're not to blame for being like some of this stuff, you didn't choose this. This is where you've ended up, but you didn't choose it. Um, then then you kind of need to be more like, I don't know, let's help those people, right? It's a little easier to be empathetic and want to care. I mean, to care maybe. Anyway, I digress. So, most of the people that took this said that they don't think it's a choice. A few of them did. But the big groups were people that said, no, I don't agree that homelessness is a choice. In fact, I strongly disagree with that. It's the second biggest. So I wanted to break that down again by whether you've known somebody. And twice as many people said strongly disagree. And that was the biggest group that has known somebody. No, strongly disagree. Well, and if you add these two up, this is like 45%. This is like 35%. Like 80% of people that have known somebody don't think that it's a choice. I think that they had some bad luck, and maybe a couple things didn't go their way, and maybe they made a couple bad calls, but then it's got out of hand, and then so yeah, that's where most of the people that took this survey are coming from. So with that in mind, we asked people to kind of rank what they think are the biggest causes of homelessness. And the ones that emerged as the most kind of, or the highest ranked, averaged across everybody, was substance abuse, mental illness, and loss of housing. The lowest was poor work ethic. So that would make sense. I think that that's the lowest, since most of the people that took our survey said it's not a choice. People aren't just like, I'm lazy, so I'm going to be homeless, which is kind of absurd when you think about it like that. I don't know, maybe you do, but to me it seems kind of absurd. But yeah, these top three are kind of stick out quite a bit, and maybe this fourth one, job loss, stick out compared to a lot of the other ones. Those are, I think, what people kind of converged on. And then, why is that such a small? And then we asked kind of if anything should disqualify you from receiving kind of housing services. Again, a lot of people saying this isn't a choice, and it's basically bad luck, bad things happen to you, or you're out of control, or you've got some mental health challenges that you're not able to overcome easily on your own. Nothing should disqualify you. The fact that that's so big, I think, is in line with those other questions. The things that people thought should disqualify you were alcohol abuse, drug abuse, or criminal background with felonies. This one was misdemeanors. Pretty much nobody thought that should disqualify you. There is a big other group, though, and that group was largely talking about if there's a risk of violence. If you're going to put other people at risk, then maybe you're not a good fit for a homeless shelter, for instance. Maybe that kind of close proximity to a bunch of other people isn't good for their safety, so that made sense to me too. There were some other things in there, and you can check them out in these. Actually, you can't check those out if you wanted. That stinks. Let me know. Put a comment on here if you want to know them. I'll give them to you. Okay. We've talked about a lot, and this video is getting long. I realize I'm going to wrap it up. Given all that we know, how optimistic can we be about ending homelessness in the near term? In 1 to 2 years, 3 to 5 years, 6 to 10 years, we asked, like, how achievable is it? Extremely achievable or not at all achievable? You can see people thought it gets more achievable, as we're talking about bigger time periods. We have more time to make progress. So that makes sense. But I wanted to see kind of how people answered specifically. So here's how it is. And I chose these colors because, like, 6 to 10 years is kind of fainter. We don't know what's going to happen since then. So the shading is kind of illustrating, what happens the next 1 or 2 years is pretty firm. Like, we've got a better idea of what we're going to do or not do in that period of time than what we do in the 6 to 10. So it stood out to me that there's a pretty big group here that said it's somewhat achievable to end homelessness in 1 to 2 years. To me, that seems really optimistic. And not to mention how many people said extremely achievable. Like either they think it's a simpler issue than it is, or they know something that I don't know. But I think I fell in the not so, maybe, or maybe not at all. I'm not sure. So this was surprising me. A lot more people were optimistic in 1 or 2 years than I was. And then it kind of, we're in the middle of the road here, sort of on average, about somewhat achievable for 3 to 5. And then as we get into 6 to 10, then we're kind of getting more into it's very achievable. It's extremely achievable. So this is pretty cool, pretty interesting. It also stood out to me that these not at all achievable people, it goes down after 1 to 2 years, but then between 3 to 5 and 6 to 10, it doesn't change that much. My take with those people is probably this is something like maybe they think it's a choice. So choosing this might be something inherent to human nature maybe for them. So like change incentives, change the whatever, people are still going to do this. Maybe it's harder to change it if it's like that than if it's like, no, we can change it because like it's not a choice. They got in a bad situation and we can just put them in a house and then it's ended, and then they'll get the rest of things under control. So yeah, let's go back to my favorite angle. So same thing, but broken out by whether you've known somebody experiencing homelessness or not. And this is kind of a busy chart, so sorry about that, but I wanted to make it all visible in one thing so we can talk about it. It looks to me like people that have known somebody experiencing homelessness are more optimistic. So these orange bars are a little further to the left towards the extremely achievable side than the blue ones are, which are kind of more to the right. So, you know, in this first one, we've got a bigger, somewhat achievable group, much smaller, not at all group. And then in 3 to 5 years, we've got a bigger, very achievable group, smaller, not at all achievable. And then 6 to 10, yeah, like, you know, we've got more on the very extremely achievable group. So that's encouraging to me, I think. I think the people that have known somebody that's experienced homelessness have a lot better idea about what it is really like, and probably better ideas about what it would take to solve this than people that haven't ever known anybody. So the fact that they're more optimistic I think they're probably the ones that are closer to the right answers, I would guess, than people that haven't known it. So yeah, maybe that's encouraging to me. Okay, that's it for charts and graphs. I'm gonna mention these insightful comments really quick, and I would really encourage you to check those out. My charts are interesting, but I'm one point of view. My interpretation on this issue is one point of view. Obviously, I'm kind of talking about all of your points of view in these charts and my interpretations, but seeing the way other people talk about this and the words they use and the feelings and the tone is really insightful. I always learn so much, and I got a lot out of them. So anyway, here's a word cloud, because that's easy to make, like the words that were used the most in this question that I asked of what gets too much attention about this topic. But I've taken these comments, and I've tried to highlight kind of key phrases to help you kind of get a sense of what the comment's about, whether you want to read it or not, or if you want to skim past it. But there's really good stuff in here, and I cherry picked these to be as the ones that I thought were the most thought-provoking or the most representative of positions on this stuff. So some of, they're not all the same. Some of them are like, homelessness is a choice, be responsible. Some of them are, it's not, and we need to help them. These are normal people that got in a bad situation. So check these out. Got all the comments on what doesn't get enough attention. So what people don't think about. And there's great stuff in here. So check it out. So I'm going to end here and say today's GIF is the rent's too damn high. was really interesting, actually. This is a political party in New York City. The rent is too damn high party. Seemed relevant. So yeah. Last note. Well, thanks to everybody that participated. Please encourage other people to participate. And if you're watching this and haven't participated, please join our list and participate in future surveys. The more people we hear from, the more impactful the analysis and the results are. The bigger a positive impact we can make on informing people and helping leaders kind of get a deeper, more nuanced grip on the problems they're working to solve. So, and if you don't think that what we found is legit and that there's no way Idahoans think that, you could be right. Maybe we're hearing from a too small or too narrow of a group. I always try to illuminate who we are hearing from, but the answer to that is then not just to discount it, but to help, to make it better, to join and make your voice heard and encourage other people to do that, especially if they have a different opinion than you do. So we can get a better idea of what's going on, what people think. So that's it for this week. And thanks a lot. Stay tuned for next one.